What is up, guys? Thank you for clicking on today's video where we're going to be talking about the absolute basics, the baby steps, the Pokemon for dummies, so to speak, which is today's video. And what inspired this video was a friend of mine's friend's brother unfortunately passed under some very freakish circumstances. It was totally unexpected, and he collected Pokemon cards. So his sister was left with his entire collection, and she has no knowledge of Pokemon cards, nor does any of her friends or family besides her brother who passed. And so basically they asked me, what do you know about Pokemon cards? What can you tell us? And some of the questions that they asked and things that they needed to know are what we're going to cover in today's video. This video is to serve as a resource for those who are not exactly familiar with the Pokemon trading card game and aren't familiar with the values or whether it's worth it to get it graded or what company to grade with and pricing tools. So everything that basically, if you just had no knowledge and you wanted to know how you could best serve yourself with what the value is like, that will be covered in today's video. Now, before we get into this one, I did want to remind you that we have a monthly giveaway for that awesome connecting set for this Plusle and Minun. And before I forget, I wanted to let you know that we've got last month's giveaway winner is Cozy TCG. Congrats on the giveaway. Go ahead and email me your shipping information, and we'll get that shipped out to you completely free of charge. And I hope you enjoy that. Some awesome packs in there. Now, I did want to apologize as well in advance that I'm a little bit stuffy still. We got back from the Florida trip, and it was absolutely insane. But I hate traveling because airports and Ubers and whatever else, germs, bacteria, and I get sick. I just get sick so easily, and here I am sick again. I feel like I've been sick like 5 times since 2024. And I feel like I had a good streak for a while. I wasn't getting sick, and now here I am getting sick every other month. So I'm sorry about that in advance. I know it's annoying to hear my congestion and nasally voice, but I promise I'll get well soon. And yeah, so let's get into this video, guys. I wanted to start off and talk about this question: what makes a Pokemon card valuable? And we're here on my YouTube channel, and I talk about it in several videos. I have a whole bunch of videos on the channel about what makes a card valuable, what is worth grading, and just a whole slew of things. And there's also a ton of other videos on YouTube, and I think that that is really the ideal way to learn about what makes a card valuable. And really, it's not all that hard. It's a few key components. You want something that's cool, something that is valuable, and something that is rare. And you might be thinking, well, I'm trying to find out what is valuable. Well, our next question, which is talking about pricing Pokemon, and basically, if you want to find out what cards are valuable, you just got to find the right pricing tool to find out which cards are valuable, which is our second point: how to price Pokemon. And I have 3 pricing tools that I personally enjoy, and I'm going to rank them from greatest to my least favorite. Of these 3, I do like cross-referencing all of these, but this has got to be my favorite one, is price charting. The reason I like it so much is because, and you'll see compared to the other pricing tools, is it shows raw values and graded values based off of eBay, which eBay sold listings are really consistently, you're going to be able to price things off of that. But I'm specifically talking about price tools, not just looking at sold history on eBay. The reason for that is because eBay last solds can give you the wrong impression. Why? Because if you are just looking at the last 1 or 2 or 3 sales of a card, that might not necessarily be the overall grand scheme of the card. You need to look at the big picture, and that's what pricing tools can do for you. With price charting, you can compare raw values, graded values. You can look at price history for, I think, up to like several months, maybe like 3 to 4 months on the actual sales listings. But then you can look at the 5-year for some of these cards, that are older. And we were looking at the Giratina V here, and we're going to compare it between the different pricing tools. And you can see here, we got PSA 10 last sold So I'm recording this actually today, 7/11, July 11th, and you can see that there was a PSA 10 that sold for $676. And if we open up the hyperlink there, you can see bidding sold Wednesday, and boom, there it is. 21 bids. It was sold on DC Sports, and there's the card. You know, it's easy as that. And that's why I feel like price charting is definitely the best pricing tool that I personally use. So next up is TCG Player for pricing tools, and this is a huge popular choice. And obviously it is very popular because it's great for raw cards, you know, and also it's not just a pricing tool. You actually have a lot of other resources with TCG Player. But I do feel like sometimes it's easy for people to look at what's listed price, and that's what they'll ask versus what's actually selling. And you can see right here, 380 is, you know, what's sold this month, and you've got near mint, you know, hollow foils for $400. So just be aware of that. I think that, you know, I feel like I've been to a lot of card shows where people are asking, you know, kind of the listed prices, and realistically speaking, people are looking for deals, you know, and that's just a fact. But I'm personally really into grading cards and selling graded cards, so TCG Player not having very much info on that is kind of where I feel like it falls flat. Now, on the complete opposite of the spectrum, we've got TCG Fish, which this only shows graded sales. And I really like TCG Fish because they also have some other resources that are really cool, like the auction monitor or the undervalue bot, where it shows low priced listings that are going to sell for a lower price than fair market value. The only problem I have with TCG Fish as a pricing tool is how delayed it is. If we compare that to the Giratina V from Price Charting versus the Giratina V from TCG Fish, you can see right here, and for some reason it does day, and for some reason it does day, month, year here, but you can see it's about 2 months old. These listings are. So you can see it's like $900, $950, but then you go to Price Charting and it's like, whoa, this is, you know, $700. This is like $200 to $300 less for the PSA 10 price. Well, it's because this is old news. This is from 2 months ago. So that's my only problem with TCG Fish, is it's kind of very delayed with how it updates the pricing. So, like, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Try and cross-reference. I think if you use these 3 tools hand in hand, you're really doing well for yourself when it comes to pricing Pokemon cards. So next up, I wanted to answer the question, is there a difference in value from certain grading companies? Which is a really good question to ask, because there is so many different grading companies, whether it be for trading cards or for comics or whatever it is. There's a bunch of different companies, and sometimes it's hard to know which one is going to be the best bang for your buck, which is something that's going to be the most consistent, the most reliable, and what sells for the most value. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So I'm here on eBay, last sold, and we're going to be comparing some of the big 3, as I call them, which is CGC, BGS, and PSA. And I just personally feel like I consistently see last solds for less from CGC and BGS slabs. We're going to be comparing gem mint on all of these categories, so keep that in mind. So a BGS gem mint is a 9.5, PSA gem mint is 10, and CGC gem mint is currently a 10 from the black and white labels that they have now. So if we go ahead and look through, here's a gem mint 10 Evolving Skies Umbreon. These consistently sell, so I feel like it's very reliable to find good numbers and good last solds for these cards. Now, this is from a seller who has reviews. It's not just a no-name seller. $750 with 1 bid. Okay, if we scroll up a little bit more, there's some higher sales. Here's one for $940, okay? Now, if we compare that to BGS, here we have a couple of 9.5s. We got one that sold for $985, so a little bit more than that Gem Mint CGC. We have another one with a best offer accepted, so I don't know how much that sold for, but it's probably around that $985 mark. And then we have another one that sold for $950. So, you know, right around the same ballpark as CGC, But if we go over to PSA, the first Umbreon VMAX that I find is a buy it now for $1,300. Guys, $1,300 compared to those $950 to $1,000 sales. That is a 30% markup for the PSA Gem Mint. Now, there is a couple lower sales. You'll see here's one for $980, but then it goes right back to $1,250 afterward. So I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility that some of these cards go for about the same amount as each other. But very consistently, we see $1,300, $1,249, $1,298, and a couple of those lower $950 sales. But still, you see it consistently selling for more. Here's one that sold for $1,800. Just absolutely insane that that card is going for so much. $1,300, but and it just keeps going on. So I personally feel like 30% is probably not fair to say, because obviously there was a couple sales. But generally speaking, I personally will value CGC and BGS Gem Mint as about 20% less is what I generally will do. So whenever I'm pricing a collection and I see that there's a lot of CGC slabs, what I'll do is I'll look at price charting and I'll look at what it's selling for in a PSA 10, and then I'll take that number. So for example, this Giratina that sold for $676, I'll take that number, 676 on a calculator, and I'll times that by 0.8, and 540 is what I would value a Gem Mint CGC or a Gem Mint BGS. That is just how much I would value it, just to make sure that it's a safe price, because I consistently see them selling for less. I understand I'm probably going to get some hate comments for that, probably going to be some people that disagree with me. I'm sorry, but the numbers don't lie. They just sell consistently for less. So that's why personally I feel like PSA is a better bang for your buck when it comes to grading. I'm not saying that they are all that much better at grading. I'm not saying that their cases are all that much better. Heck, I prefer BGS cases. I really do. But BGS is kind of a wild card for me because they're very difficult to get pristine 10s and black label 10s. And they do go for a premium, but they're so hard to get that PSA is just more consistently good. It's more reliable when it comes to getting those higher values. So, after covering that, my fourth and final point for this video is what avenues can you sell your cards? Let's say you're, in this scenario, like I mentioned with that friend, where you have all of these cards, you don't know what to do with, you're not very familiar with it. What are you going to do to sell them? Well, make sure to do your research. Price the Pokemon, make sure that you know how much they're worth, and then to go from there, you can sell them on platforms like eBay, like TCG Player. You can sell them locally. You can go to card shows. Card shows is another option. You can go to card shows and see if stands want to buy your cards for 80% of value, which is pretty typical. Maybe 70 to 80% is what I see, especially with those better cards. Sometimes it's a little bit less for lower tier cards. But if you have some really solid vintage holos, I mean, you're looking to probably get 80% if they're in decent condition. And then another avenue is by selling it to an online dealer. So there is, different people just like myself where we offer to buy collections, and I'm buying collections. I'll offer 60 to 80%. I'll pay for shipping. I'll make sure to give you a full in-depth list of what they're worth and what I'm paying you. And that really saves you a lot of work if you don't want to go through pricing everything. I highly recommend you do price everything, because I personally, I want to make sure to give you the best deal, and I want to make sure that you know how much I'm paying you. But that is not the case for everyone. There's shady dealers out there, there's shady shops, and sometimes, there is people who are willing to, say, hey, that's a $20 card, when in reality, it's a $500 card. So I always recommend doing your own research and covering your back, because you never want to find out later down the road that you sold a first edition Charizard to someone for, a handful of beans. So guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget about that giveaway where all you got to do is like, comment, and subscribe, and you're entered to win. And I hope that you're able to take something away from this video. Even if you are someone who is a seasoned collector and is familiar with these tools or whatever it is, I think that there's something to take away from this and just kind of serves as a reminder. Maybe this could be a video that you send your friend who knows nothing about Pokemon cards and you don't feel like taking the time to explain these basics. You know, it seems like basic to me, and it seems like basic to others who are familiar with the hobby, but for others that know nothing about it, it could seem like this is a tremendous learning curve. And I just wanted to put something together that in a few minutes you could digest it and try and learn. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I really appreciate you all, and I'll catch you in the next video.